representatives, and four of them are hosting a town hall that I plugged to residents of Hamilton County that are in the chapter, that we can go to and um, advocate for ranked choice voting and against Senate Bill 63. Cincinnati has had a lot of stuff go down, so that's probably like there's a lot of stuff in the news that you might have seen. Um, and so that's probably why they're holding a town hall, just to like really um hold space for that and talk about those things. But this is such a I feel like a government that was elected with ranked choice voting would be better equipped to handle and prevent these problems from happening. Um, and that is why that's what I'm going to be talking about if we are allowed to talk as just citizens.
Okay. Grace, do you have a real quick update about Central?
Yes, Debbie is not here. Um, I think Central has made a lot of progress in canvassing, like on the July event along. We got the 800 signups that day, and Debbie has also scheduled. Let me see. The first ever event in Logan in the coming uh, Saturday. And also on uh, September 1st, we are going to have 5 events in the same day across different regions in our central chapter. So, yeah, whoever is on the call, if you are in the central chapter, we can definitely need more help with our canvassing efforts. So we have Debbie has done an amazing job of mobilizing new supporters. That we are getting volunteers who never showed up in the past, and they are doing fabulous work. So this is all very exciting.
Great news. Thank you so much. And that takes us to the statewide. The September statewide meeting will be September 14th. But before I get to that, I want to let you know Rank the Vote Ohio now has over 25,000 supporters. Hoot hoot. And we are 5. We are now 5 years old. So in September, we are having a party with cake. And we're going to be in Cleveland Heights with an in-person meeting where we are going to do a canvassing extravaganza. We're going to learn all about canvassing and how to bring ranked choice messaging to our people that we meet with on the street, at home, wherever. And then we're going to go out and canvass the city of Cleveland Heights. Then we're meeting up for dinner afterwards at a place called Cilantro Taqueria for a Dine for Democracy dinner. Anyone who RSVPs and mentions us there, they will give us 20% of the cost of the meal back to Rank the Vote Ohio. You can dine in or you can dine takeout, either way. Please RSVP to
And
the RSVP to the restaurant so that they know you're coming, because we need at least 20 RSVPs in order to hold our slot for that 20% back. And then I've been in contact with a group.
wait, before you move on, Denise, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
That meeting in September is not just in Cleveland Heights, correct? It is also hybrid.
It will also be hybrid.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification. I've been in contact with Rank My Vote. That is the group in Michigan that is working on a statewide initiative up there. And the more people that know about ranked choice voting, the better it is for everybody, especially if ranked choice wins in Michigan this year. But also, Michigan has been my gold star for where I want to be moving forward. They passed ranked choice voting in several cities, and then eventually they're working on to their statewide. They're also battling a ban bill. But right now, they are looking for phone bankers. Phone banking, it's not just cold calling. It's fun. They do it with a group. They're calling people that are already supporters of theirs and asking them to help get volunteers out in the field. If you're interested, please let me know, and I will hook you up with them. And then I'm going to turn this over to Kristen.
Hi, everyone. I've been chiming in a little bit with Denise. I'm Kristen Byrice. I'm our voter advocacy liaison. I sit on Ohio Voter Rights Coalition as well as run our trainings and everything for the ban bill and all that good, terrible, awful stuff. So we do have a ban bill that is trying to be passed in the state of Ohio, SB 63. There are multiple actions you can take. We expect the House to come back. It's already passed the Senate. It next has to pass the House. So we are expecting them to come back to the House mid-September, early October. September is kind of a if we want to come back. So we don't know if they'll come back or not in September, but they will definitely be back in October. Now is the time to start taking action so that the House does not want to move forward on it. So we need to start getting our testimony together. There's testimony training a week from Thursday that I'll be hosting at 7 p.m. We need to get letters to the editor out to as many newspapers as we can and plaster the papers with information on what ranked choice voting is, why we need it in Ohio, and why the ban bill is not good for Ohio. So we need LTE letters to the editor written. National Rank the Vote hosts a once monthly LTE writing party. So I invite you to go to that. There's a link in our agenda to that as well. I'll throw these in the chat in a minute here. So that's on the 8th of September at 7 p.m., I believe. So that is a Monday after Labor Day. I hope you'll go and attend that and learn how to write a letter to the editor. You literally get to write it in that moment. You can sit there and write your letter to the editor. 8 p.m. Thank you, Celia. And then also you can call or write your state representative. So there's phone information there, or we have a link for you to just type all your information in. It'll automatically go to your representatives at the state house. So I highly recommend that you take at least one action a week if you can, but at least one action this month to make sure somebody has heard from you to say that you want ranked choice voting and to stop SB 63.
Thank you very much, Kristen.
Thanks for putting
And then
those
that
links in.
takes us, what's that?
Thanks for, oh, Robert through LinkedIn. Never mind. Got it.
Yeah. That takes us to Celia Nolan, preparing to win local ballot initiatives. So Celia, I've known Celia for probably 4 years now. She's the training director with Rank the Vote, our national partner, and director of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. She was Plymouth County organizer for Voter Choice Massachusetts and held leadership roles in local government, other civic organizations, and campaigns. Prior to her political organizing work, she had a career in project management and technical communications for IT and operations departments at companies such as Iron Mountain, EMMT, NRG, and Northwest Airlines. Celia holds a degree in linguistics and Russian. Who knew? From Macalester College, and studied piano pedagogy at the New England Conservatory of Music. In her spare time, she enjoys teaching classical piano and fiber arts. Celia, take it away. You have the ability to share your screen.
Oh, great. Thank you, Denise. And hello, everyone. Some names I know and some I don't, but great to be here with you. And thanks for that little rundown of memory lane of my background, Denise. In IT, a major thing I did for years was large-scale disaster planning, which turns out is actually a pretty good fit for political organizing too. And technical communication. We're going to talk a lot about documents today. So if you see me get like a little more excited than a normal person, that is why it is in my background. All right, let me pull up these slides. And these slides are based on a presentation that I gave at the American Democracy Summit with Rank the Vote Executive Director Eileen Reevy and Diane Silver of Fair Vote. So I wanted to make sure to give my colleagues some credit here on the front. I massaged him a little bit and compressed him, but that is the basis of what I have here. All right, I'm just going to move my little doc so I can see my slides. All right, so the topic is winning, but we really need to look at where this fits in a cycle, right? You can't just head right for a win. So there's really this cycle of building. We're building power, we're building relationships, doing outreach to the community. Your reports today were wonderful reports of that kind of activity. And then that builds to a win where we're talking about a local win here. Like Denise said, when there's a win, the news gets out to everyone, it helps all of us. And that is not the end. So we need to sustain it. We need to make sure that RCV seems like a normal way to vote, that any challenges are beaten back. It's a stable system. And we keep educating voters. We keep educating election administrators, keep building for more wins, bigger wins, statewide. Sky's the limit. And I'm talking about municipal wins because cities do win. So as of now, 47 cities use ranked choice voting. And in the last 10 years, 37 and a half of them have passed it. And I say that half because there is one city that passed ranked choice voting, is using it. This is in Massachusetts, actually, where I am. And then they wanted to expand it. So they wanted proportional ranked choice voting for multi-winner seats. And they, along with many other cities, are waiting for legislative approval for that. In fact, I got some numbers for you. Let's see. 9 have passed it and are awaiting implementation. And 10 and a half, that half, have passed it and are waiting for legislative action. But we're seeing a lot of movement. And this does not even include the trigger ordinances that have been passed in some places where they weren't quite ready for a full win. And we can talk about different paths in a bit. And when our cities pass, they pass resoundingly. So Westbrook, Maine passed with 63%. That was really the League of Women Voters mounted that campaign. We had Ann Arbor, Michigan, one of several, like Denise said, in Michigan, 73%. You may be thinking those are small cities, but Washington, D.C. passed it with 73%. That was also in combination of opening up the primaries somewhat. New York City won with 74%. That was also a charter commission with some other reforms. Oak Park, Illinois with 79%, which sounds pretty great, but then Evanston passed it with 83. So we have people in our network who have done this before, who have gone through the whole process and have materials to share with you. So I hope at the end of this, a big takeaway is that, as you know you're in a network, but you're definitely not alone in this. There are many, many resources out there. Rank the Vote and far beyond. All right, so I'm going to start with build a little bit because that's how we get to the win. So we got to grow our people, money, and endorsements. So for people, we just need a base of support. We need stakeholders. We need coalition partners, connect with our community organizations, develop support from electeds and election administrators. Some of them may not be strong supporters, but at least we want them to be aware of us and respect us and know what's going on and feel comfortable with what's happening. And of course, fundraise. And I love that the deal that you have with the restaurant, that was really creative fundraising. So great to hear about that. All right. So sometimes, there are these presentations that are sort of high level things to do. We're going to get pretty in the weeds today. not fully in the weeds, but pretty far in the weeds. So as you're building up in your build phase, you need to know if you're even ready to think about campaigning. So we have a template called the Municipal Assessment Template, snappy name. And it's basically 15 steps of just a boilerplate you can fill in. It's like a Google Doc. You can fill in tables with information as you gather it, as you learn it from your coalition partners, so that you can plan for a campaign. It's also a very useful document to share with trusted partners so that they know what you're thinking of. Again, they can fill in a lot of details. They may have done this before, and also potential donors and other stakeholders so that they know that, you know, you have a clearer plan of what you're doing. You're not just thinking this is a great idea and, you know, going for it without fully preparing. So I'm going to quickly run through these 15 steps just so you get a sense what's in there. And all these materials will be shared with you. There's a handy folder. All right. So on the right is basically what this document looks like. It's just tables with some sources ready for you just to give you a jump start and some selections and then areas for you to fill in. This also is not a solo endeavor. This can be a great thing to assign to people maybe who are not comfortable phone banking, but are happy to do a little research, you know, a little analysis. And, you know, if there's or nothing much is happening in their area, this is something they can work on that is super helpful. So this is definitely a group effort. So for the municipality you have in mind, you need to know, you know, what type of city or town is this? You know, when do the elections happen? Are there already problems that people are aware of? Are there certain challenges? Are there legal ways to change how elections are run? Is there a charter commission coming up? Maybe there are already legal changes in process. You need to be aware of that so that you're not stepping on changes in progress, and that you can show that you're knowledgeable of what's happening. You need to know, you know, who are the election administrators? Sometimes it's through the Secretary of State, sometimes it's a separate office. Who are the staff? What's the equipment that you use? It may very well be a mix. Do they have a planned upgrade coming? Do they have a fund ready for it? Do they hand count? You know, anything like that. Maybe the precincts are different. Got to be aware of what is already existing on the ground. And again, how could you change these elections? Is it a charter change? Is it a bylaw change? Is it a local ballot measure? You know, just what are the options available to you? And any other particular legal considerations. There may be other changes that are being considered, you know, and you just need to be aware of the full landscape. You need to know who are the influencers. This may be elected officials, maybe community leaders, maybe faith leaders, you know, the people who do ballot measures all the time. Who are these folks? Do we know them? Your coalition partners can probably fill in a lot more of these people. Also, what is the partisan landscape? Is it fairly evenly split between the two major parties? Is it mostly independent voters? How are they leaning? And, you know, how devoted are they in their partisan nature? This is something you can tease apart with voting patterns. Sometimes you can tease it apart by other means and analysis that's out there, and we'll talk about some of those tools. Who's your coalition? Who do you have right now? Who have you heard of? Ask your volunteers, who are they involved in, and just keep talking. Ask your elected officials, any of those influencers, you know, keep building out those spheres of influence, attend events, just find out who are the groups who are active in your area and in that city. And what really is your goal? Are there certain seats that you want to change the election system for? Do you want to go for single winner seats, multi-winner seats? Do you want to trigger resolution? There always can be an enactment goal, even if there is a ban or even if it's unclear. This is something you may not know up front. You can talk to Fair Vote, the Legal Roundtable, your elected officials, town council, and just get a handle on what are the possibilities and what would you like to do. And similarly, who's the advocacy team around you? Who are your supporters? Who's active? Just what are your assets at this point? And what's the grassroots potential? Again, you'll see in the document, it breaks it down a little bit more, but just thinking, like how some of these groups that we've identified may overlap. Your VIPs, your coalition, and your advocacy team may overlap quite a lot. So in looking at the grassroots potential, you're able to see, do we have wide coverage? Do we have strong but narrow base at the moment for active folks? Where are we at right now? How much money do we have right now? What are some untapped sources? We always need money to keep the engine going. And what are the likely cost factors? We have some, basic little back of the envelope kind of math in there, and you can fill in some local numbers. Again, this is not figuring out your specific budget yet, but just being aware of what likely is your campaign is going to entail. Once you have that reasonably done, you have a pretty good sense if this city is a good target, if it is, but maybe not yet. Like we have a lot of dedicated people, but we have no money. And, there are entire communities that we just haven't connected with. Probably not yet time to continue. So just keep going, keep building your base of support, revisit this municipal assessment and see how it goes. All right. When it's looking pretty good, you're seeing some strength and a good understanding of the environment. Now you can think about going for the win. So this still isn't, like running out and getting signatures. Still have to figure out what is this going to entail before we launch a campaign operation. So we're talking about ballot measures here. There are essentially two paths on the ballot. You can get a legislative referral, like from the city council, or you can go out and collect signatures from the public. And each one of these there has pros and cons. So the legislative referral is, a simpler process to get on the ballot. You have, just a small number of people to lobby and connect with. Once you know their disposition, which you will find out in the assessment template, and then you can just have them put it directly on the ballot. So that's generally faster and it's generally cheaper. You could go the signature collection route if the city council is not favorable or just the timing doesn't work out. This takes longer. It's, more on the ground muscle work. It's more expensive. However, once you are on the ballot, it means that you already have done a lot of outreach and voter education, and so a lot of your work is done for the campaign. So that is not a bad option either. But either way, got to fundraise and got to go for the win. All right. So now we get to do another document, a set of documents, actually, the campaign plan. So in the assessment, you have a pretty good idea of where you are now. For the campaign plan, you want to dig deeper into that and make some projections for what the situation might be for different options of elections. You want to make multiple projections because Denise mentioned, maybe it's not a bad idea to, be in an off year for an election. That's a cheaper campaign, smaller universe. So you need to make sure you're projecting for the specific circumstance. So for this, we also have a template. This one is a spreadsheet. It has the formulas already in there. It has a lot of numbers already in there. And then it has some for you to plug in for your specific circumstance and also to kind of play around. So if you want, I can open up the spreadsheet. We can dig in. There are like instructions in the spreadsheet too. And, fair vote, rank the vote, and folks who have done it before are available. But you'll see the numbers that are set are in black, and then the ones for you to play with are in red. So there's a nice visual of where to plug in your numbers. So we want to look at, how many voters are registered, what the turnout looks like over multiple elections, presidential years, midterm years. If you have your city elections and off years, you want all those numbers in there too. And we're going to take different averages and different comparisons. You also want to know by a partisan breakdown, how do those voters vote? They may have different turnouts. They also may vote differently, vote by mail, early voting, early in-person voting, or in-person voting. You want to have a grasp of that. Those populations may vote a little bit differently. And you need to figure out what your win number is. That is the number of yes votes you need in order to get a win. And the spreadsheet builds right from the top of that with your turnout numbers. Then you take the result of that and plug it into the next section, and it all kind of feeds down. So the next slide is what that last section of the spreadsheet looks like when you've already plugged in a bunch of numbers. Here we go, beautiful spreadsheet. So in this example, the projected turnout is about 300,000 people. And if you look at the partisan breakdown, I don't know what location this is supposed to be with the partisan divide so different. This is definitely a made-up example. But so it carries through the numbers you've already plugged in of the partisan breakdown and then calculates the projected turnout by those populations. And then where it says yes rates, this is where you can play around with it. So if you think 50% of Democrats are going to vote yes, put that in, and it will calculate how many votes that will be. Same for Republicans and third party. You can also add, rows here if you want to. And then you can see the total. If your estimate is correct, you're going to end up with about a little under 150,000 yes votes. So then you look at the table over on the right, and that shows if you get 50% plus one vote, how many yes votes that would be. And then on down the table, if you get a higher percentage of a win. Obviously, we don't want to aim for 50% plus one. That is a pretty scary goal to have. And in fact, in our example, if you look, it came up to, almost 149,000 votes. That is not even 50% plus one. So in this case, if I were thinking about my campaign, I would go back to that table on the left and say, okay, maybe I can get Democrats to 55%. Maybe Republicans, I'll get to 16.8%, play around with it and see what it would take to get to a comfortable win number. And this is where your calculation and discussions come into play. For the situation that works, do you think that's reasonable? Right. So this is definitely an iterative process to find a goal that works. You want to be aiming for 60% or higher as a goal. Got to leave yourself that buffer. And if you really can't, if you plug in numbers and it just doesn't seem realistic at all, you are not ready for a campaign. And it probably won't be a big surprise after you do your municipal assessment, but this is just much more of a reality check to think, what would it really take if you break it down? And also, again, go to your coalition partners and say, what do you think of these assumptions? What do you think of the turnout? Maybe the yes rate sounds reasonable. We're still a little low. Can we get higher turnout, do we think? Like, is there a contested race? Is it the kind of election that would drive people higher? What do we think? But make sure that you feel good about 60% or higher, because this is a big effort and a big public effort. And we like wins. We like the news of wins. All right, if that's all looking good, you can start building your team, because it looks like this is going to be a go. So it starts with your leaders. There can be more roles, but you certainly want a campaign manager to oversee it all. You want your volunteer coordinator for your masses of volunteers who are going to be all over the place. You want to speak to those community organizations, so you need a speaker trainer, and you need community organizers or local ones. And as I've heard, you all are in good shape in a lot of areas on this. So the great thing again about doing this build model before the campaign is there's quite a lot that you are going to have in place. You're going to have knowledgeable people already. It's just building up bigger. All right. And again, knowing even as much as you can about your target universe. Who are the folks that are definitely going to show up and vote for you? Who are the ones that probably will turn out, but you really need to make sure that you give them probably a few touches, make sure you know how they're going to vote. And maybe there are some persuadable skeptics. Maybe you have time to do some, talks with them, maybe talk to some spheres of influence there and see if you can bring some over to your side. And again, those demographics, dig in deep by, age, by trends, by language, anything that you can learn about your people. And where do they live? Are there clustered areas? Definitely make sure that you have a lot of canvases there and lid drops and event and all that, right? And do all this with data. They're probably very knowledgeable people. You probably have a good sense of your community, but make sure you check with the data. It can be surprising. Voter files are available. You may already have it, actually, Denise, or, for certain cities, you may not have all of them, but yeah, make sure you have it. Sometimes partner organizations have voter files. They may have data from past campaigns that can be very valuable. So always talk with them. And again, your partisanship targeting. Who are you going to talk to? What's your message? What's your message? Who's your messenger? You can do some market research. You can pay for some polls. Again, partners may be willing to do that. You may be able to get grant money for that kind of a thing. And know your neighborhoods and your precincts. And again, we have the documents digging even deeper into this. So you don't even have to think like, what do I need to know? It is in there. All right. So build coalitions just like you're doing right now. We need endorsements. We need messengers. Rank the Vote has documents on this, lots of sources on this kind of thing. Often we've heard in campaigns, they'll go door to door and someone will say like, who on the city council supports this or who opposes it? And you say a name and they're like, all right, that's it. Like, don't say no more. Like, I'm with you. Right. So that can save a lot of time and be really, really powerful. And if you can use their endorsement or decide how to use it, put it on your lit, targeted lit, anything. My guiding principle is we can only organize at the speed of trust. And this is where it comes from. And don't just think of the political sphere, right? This could be community organizations, it could be social justice organizations, it can be faith communities, can be, of course, unions, right? Teachers. So there's all kinds of universes out there. All right. So we got to make sure we contact these folks. So canvassing in person, we want to, leave those door hangers so they know you were there, have palm cards to hand out at events, and all the languages in your city, right? Because you've done all that background work. So make sure that you have all this information on your website and the handouts in the languages that you would expect to encounter, that the languages that your voters speak. You can also mail them. You have that voter file. So you have their mailing addresses. They don't have to be on your supporter list. So send out those mailers, and it's going to take more than one. And make sure you're out of the community, give presentations, table at events, visit events, be out there. And this picture is an actual mailer from that Oak Park, Illinois campaign. Sometimes this is an area where partners can help. I know in Ann Arbor, Michigan, there was an organization that offered to do an in-kind campaign contribution and they handle the mailers. So that's the kind of thing. So again, make sure you give contact. Often the League of Women Voters will have educational material. They may be very willing to do presentations for you. So some of this, again, not all of this is something you need to do on your own. Need to do it, not on your own though. And it's a digital world. So use your social media, use your e-blasts, build your list with online petitions and signups. I know your website has that, but think of all the creative ways. Do that phone and text banking like they're doing in Michigan. And there are organizations that specialize in this. Here are some of them that Rank the Vote works with particularly, and these are probably familiar names to a lot of you. And there are other ones out there too. So you can always compare and price compare and, use different ones and mix and match and have a really smart campaign. All right, we need to be visible. So like Krista was talking about, letters to the editor, send in those editorials, have your people who are trained in PR do interviews and events. And also you can pay for media exposure too, digital ads, print, radio. And if for some reason people still haven't heard of you, get those yard signs out there, get people walking around wearing your t-shirts, your hats. Better Ballot Iowa has earrings. You can have all the swag. Stickers, bumper stickers, public signage. You can do billboards. Yeah. Try to think like, how could someone possibly avoid hearing about us and then reach them that way? And speaking of letters to the editor, in Ohio, I wrote a blog post for Rank the Vote recently that lifted up this Ohio letter to the editor. So it was a great example and a great headline, which you don't usually choose, but that was a good one. It had calls to action. It had link to Rank the Vote Ohio. It had like what to say, who to call. Great. So I'm excited to see lots more of that because you already are a model for our advocacy community. All right, so timeline. This is again an iterative process. You may think about like how long will it take us to fundraise and make all the connections that may determine which election or elections you aim for. Sometimes something comes up and you have to compress your timeline to make it fit. So again, like I was saying, disaster planning really fits for campaign planning. You have to be flexible. But ideally, give yourself at least a 12-month runway for your plan. Make sure all those deadlines are in there, including early voting. That has changed the game for so many things. You got to start months earlier contacting voters. And make sure you know your financial reporting dates. You want to hit those. And like with any project plan, work your way backwards, give yourself some padding, and make sure you have a picture of what this thing's going to look like. And here, in fact, is an example from Michigan. So this was, just their overall making sure that everything for the legal preparation was in place with deadlines. They have enough volunteers to handle the work. They're reaching out with partners and making sure that they plan with them, that the funds are coming and having those metrics to see if they're on target, see if they need to ramp anything up. And also sometimes there's a decision that, we're not growing as fast as we thought. The partners are not coming on board. Maybe this is not the time. Maybe we push out the timeline. And that's okay. When you do it, you want to do it with confidence and with strength. All right, so your budget. There's some sample numbers in our templates, but the costs really do vary, and the size of the cities and the turnout and everything. But definitely plan early. Consider that timing, like Denise was saying. Sometimes a November campaign in an off year can be cheaper, or a spring election if it's a special election. And start early, get lots of quotes, ask your partners. They probably know, like who are the suppliers for mailers, who's reliable. That's another one, like the mailer folks that hit those deadlines. And it can take a long time for those mailers to go out. It can be months that you have to give them all the all your assets, and then the mailer doesn't go out for months. So start with this stuff early. And always, 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 big takeaways, look at the resources that are out there and ask for help because they are out there. All right, so here's an example of just a section of, I'm not sure which campaign this is, but these are real numbers for a real campaign. So they did 4 mailers. You can see they are not cheap. This is not New York City. This is not Washington, D.C. So it's one of our smaller cities, but it's still, you know, $500,000, somewhere close to that for those 4 mailers. And you can see, like, in the signage, you may run out of yard signs and you need to order some more, right? You may need some more t-shirts. So, you know, those expenses you'll be deciding as things go along too. All right, so we talked about documents, we talked about spreadsheets, all these things. All right, now it's the people part. You will almost certainly need paid staff to be focused on this. Campaigning is like close to 24/7. So, you know, we want to pay our folks, but you're also going to have a volunteer army helping out. And like with any project, right, check in with your folks, follow the timeline. Your campaign manager and your volunteer organizers and your community organizer, they're going to be doing these check-ins, keeping everything on track. And if anything slips or moves up, which would be wonderful, document those adjustments so that whenever you're having those check-ins, you know where you are now. And, you know, if you need to pivot to anything different. So yes, document everything. How many hours is this taking and who and where? Where's that money coming from? Where is it going to? This is very important for campaign finance. So while you're reporting, you want to be on top of that. But also, you're probably going to run another campaign. So keep it for reference for your own selves too, so that the next time you do this, you'll have more comparison and have lessons learned on how it went and how it might be different if you're sizing up or down. So maybe scalable, you know, you'll have a sense for how many people it takes for the size and just get smarter all the time. So you may be feeling like this after all this information. But the main thing here is that there are people who have done this. There are people to support you. No single one of you needs to remember everything or do everything. The fact that it's documented means, like, if people roll off, it's fine. You've got all the expertise there. You've got all the knowledge, and you are building towards your win. And there is a handy folder that Fair Vote has pulled together, the material I talked about in here with examples. And when I say examples, I mean it's like the real municipal templates from some of these campaigns. You may see some of it may not be fully complete, like you can't finish everything perfectly before you move on. But you will see real numbers and real notes in there, how all this is used. So that has been preparing to win for local ballot measures. And now it's over to you for questions and to do the good work. And I see there are some comments, and I can never multitask enough to actually look at the chat while I'm sharing my screen. So I can look in here.
There's more comments than questions in there. So just so you know, I've been keeping tabs on it.
Yeah, that was Chuck's letter, the editor. Yep, great. And oh, Denise, if you didn't see it, yep, there it is. And yeah, you can read my blog post about it. Yeah, that 550,000. So Kristen, was that the 4 mailers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the 4 mailers plus the other, like an estimate, just a quick estimate of what was below it.
Yep. So again, you don't want to walk into that and then suddenly discover that that's how much it costs. Yeah, thanks. Denise, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what is the average timeline for a campaign? Like, so say a city says, we're going to do ranked choice voting, and you have to get this passed in 3 months. That seems like really, really short. What's the average?
Yeah, and what you just described that happened in Ann Arbor, basically. And also they switch managers in the middle of that too. So it's a scramble. I know. So you can make it work. But again, that's why like you got to keep on top of it and being like, if this isn't working, it's a short timeline, like change it. Um, Ideally, it's about a year and a half. I would say it often is closer to a year. So if you can project out that year, that's why I think, like it would be great to project out further. But again, that's why you're building in the first place, right? You're not starting from scratch. You're not even going to think about a campaign plan unless you look at your municipal assessment and you're like, actually, we have pretty good coverage and some money in the bank and partners who can assist. Yeah. Robert, your hands up.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again for this rundown and that both at the state level and at the local level for Cincinnati, it kind of helps me feel better about where we are because there's a lot that you pointed out that we're like doing or like beginning to do. And I guess right now I would want to know, does that yearish timeline include building, or do you want to have built confidently to get a big base before you even do that timeline?
You want to do that build first. So the 12 months is that campaign timeline.
Mhm.
And it may take you a year to 5 to get to the point where you're even thinking, you know what, a campaign might actually be valuable. Not valuable, but it might be a possibility. Um, but exactly like you're doing the work. A lot of what I talked about is kind of like you're doing it. You just kind of have to wrap your hands around it and figure out like, are we ready? And what all goes into that, right? And making sure you can demonstrate it. So you can meet as a group and be like, we got it. Like, this is what we have. We don't have to talk around in circles and think we have it. Like, we have our list of people. We've talked to these city councilors. We know what they think. We know who's up for election and who's going to be replaced. Like, it can be that kind of thing. And that's in the municipal template. And then you'll get more into it in the campaign template. So by the time you're even starting to work on your campaign plan, you should already have the numbers that make it likely you can do it. You just want to make sure and to know, like, all right, we need grants for like 150,000 or something rather than like, oh, we need some amount of money, right? How are you
Thank
feeling? Are you the lady? Is everyone like the lady doing calculations, or are you like, let's start the document? Where are we at?
I'm just thinking that a lot of some of this stuff we know, and we already have relationships, and we've already been doing groundwork for several years, depending on where the city is. So there might be people here who are thinking, oh my gosh, we're so far behind. But what you may not know is that there are already relationships being built, coalitions in action. So we may not be as far away as you might be thinking. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So like that'll come out. You might start throwing things down. You'll be like, wow, we have an amazing coalition actually. And like looking at the communities, we're like, actually, no, we pretty much have it covered. And maybe you're like, hey, we have some different language communities, but we have these organizations that work in those communities. We have, folks who already do this, and we have people who've run ballot measures before. Yeah. Question on Cleveland Heights. Maybe you want to start with the Cleveland Heights municipal template. And you can always like start them. You can look at them for the places you're considering and just throw down what you already know. This doesn't necessarily mean like grind all your work to a halt and spend like 18 hours a day for months filling it in. So that may be part of it. Just like start throwing things in there, like share it around, crowdsource it. That could be its own little like online party thing, like crowdsource the document and be like, could you fill in this section? Could you do that section? Be talking like, hey, who else knows, an organization here? And see what it looks like. Grace?
So I have two questions. First, among the 47 cities currently using RCV, are there like how many of them are little bit conservative leaning?
That's a good question because it's not just stated specific cities. And I don't know off the top of my head. So a lot of them, there are two in Massachusetts, there are a bunch in California. We got Washington. There's Fort Collins in Colorado. That is a blue city. Westbrook, Maine, I'm not sure about. So it's
Utah?
true, the cities tend to be left-leaning generally and tend to be the easier targets. But then you also have the pilot program in Utah. So there's, a couple dozen there in Utah too.
Yeah, that's my next question because at one point I think close to 60 cities are using it, and we actually lost some. So maybe we can learn from those cities. Like they used to adopt it, but why they, I mean, some of them kind of changed it. Like you mentioned, the pilot in Utah.
Mhm.
So to my understanding is some of those pilots, they did not adopt it after they piloted. So I am not sure, like if we can find the learning, maybe we can have a more like more deliberate effort to
Mhm.
those sections.
Yeah, those are two interesting things to dive into. In Utah, so I mean, it's a pilot program, they can opt in. So none of those cities are rejecting it. They just decided not to renew, which seems like a distinction without a difference, but it's a little bit different, right?
Mhm.
In Utah, there's I believe it's the Secretary of State, not the Attorney General, who is very against ranked choice voting. So there's pressure from above not to continue the pilot, but still cities are wanting to adopt it. So, each state is its own little experiment. So that's some of what's happening in Utah. There's a little bit of tension there. As far as, yeah, I'll trust that number of about 60. Like there were many that used, especially it was multi-winner ranked choice voting early in the 20th century. And what happened? They all got rolled back except Cambridge, Massachusetts, actually. And now we're coming back again. Really, the movement started up again in the 90s. But what happened there was that it was actually successful in electing more representative bodies. So there were socialists who were elected, there were immigrants who were elected, there were communists who were elected, right? Anarchists who were elected. And the party bosses were not happy about that because they wanted to keep a lock. So they shut it down. So, it, it's an interesting example again of maybe the powers that be wanting to hold on to their power. But it's not anything that's of a concern for modern campaigns, other than that sort of general lesson, right? Um, Also, some places, they were hand counting in those days, and it's certainly possible to hand count. Australia hand counts ranked elections countrywide. But that was some of it, and now we have machines and we have good processes for hand counting too. So um, I don't know, that was the historical lesson.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Actually, it started in the 1800s. There was a Society for Proportional Representation. I don't think that's the exact name, but something like that. And the people who formed the league were part of that too. So yeah, electoral reform is not a rapid reform, but it's an important one. So we're part of a grand tradition here. I'll just check in the chat here. Yeah, great. Any other
All right. Well,
questions? Yeah.
thank you so much, Celia. If you are interested, I have several communities that I have municipal assessments working on right now. If you're interested in helping out with any of those, please reach out to me. It's just driley at rankthevoteohio.org. And I will be happy to put you in touch with the organizers in those areas so that you can collaborate on those municipal assessments. Are there any other questions for Celia before we say goodnight?
Mhm. And also, I'm happy to work with folks as they fill in with their municipal assessment. So if you look at it, it's self-explanatory and you're filling it in, that's great. If you're not sure, or if anyone wants just someone with them, to help do the research and, vet the information or anything like that, I'll put my contact info in the chat. I know Denise has it too, but I'll put it in here. Like, they can schedule my time. If you have any questions, they want to do a working session, I am very happy to do that.
I just type in C and it comes up. I don't know why.
So funny. And I have a Calendly link. Let me grab that.
And as always, Rank the Vote Ohio could always use your donations. Kristen has put the link in the chat for our donation page. Please help us out because your donations help keep us in business, keep our organizers on the ground and the lights on at the office.
And we have at least 2 potential campaigns next year at $550,000 each, possibly 3 coming up. So we need all the donations we can get to do those campaigns.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I will hang out for a little bit if anybody wants to chat with me. Celia, you are very welcome to hang out with me as well. But thank you so much for coming. That was a great presentation. I am looking forward to sharing the recording with all of those who couldn't be here tonight. And I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to come and talk to us and help us through this.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and just keep up the great work. Ohio is inspiring. You're always, on the top of my mind when I talk about our state partners, all the activity in Ohio. So I'm just excited for you to do more, and hope I can be of assistance anytime.
Thank you very much.
Julianne. Thank you, everyone.